Hello there.
Hi greedy 3Ders, today we're going to be making this Obi Wan Kenobi bust, Old Obi Wan Kenobi, Alec Guinness from SW3D. I'll put a link to where you can go. They've also done an old Ewan McGregor as well, and there's lots of different variations of this. We're not going to do the goggles, but we're going to do Alec Guinness as Old Obi Wan Kenobi. We are using PAS 10 Ultra Print White from RAAYGSCQLM to print the model on the RAAYGSCQLM Ultracraft Reflex RS Turbo, all printed beautifully and draining wonderfully as we speak. This is the Obi-Wan, or the Old Obi Wan Kenobi head and body bust from SW3D. I'll put a link in the description. Here he is, all off the printer now. I'm just going to get him off the build plate via the medium of a metallic spatula, and he comes off lovely. There's a little pop, and off pops Obi, and he has come off wonderfully, and I'm going to give him a clean now. Twofold clean. I'll show you the first part. This is just some dirty IPA, 99% IPA. You need this to get your resin off your model. I'm also going to give it a clean IPA afterwards, which I'm not going to put on film. You get the gist. He's had a little bit of a clean. Now, in comparison to the resin, we're also going to be using the Anycubic Cobra S1 filament FDM kind of printer to print the bust body bit, and this is quite a large piece, and that's why I've printed it on an FDM printer rather than resin. Back to resin though, a little bit of a heat with the hairdryer and the supports will pop off. I want you to see this. They come off really easy, just a little pop, and 99.9% of those supports have just fallen away. Remember how easy those supports come off, because when the FDM model is printed, and I've used tree-like supports on this, so they're really easy to get off, and I use the term easy a little bit loosely. To get these supports off, took a little bit of clipping, a little bit of poking, a little bit of pulling and pushing, and I do not like getting FDM supports off. Never have done, never will do. Love the resin ones, but not the FDM ones. But it's come off, and there has been a casualty, as usual with FDM prints. Typical. And this is what he looks like. He hasn't had any primer yet. I will be giving him some white Army Painter primer, but this is what he looks like straight off the printer, and as you can see, the detail is just incredible, and I cannot wait to get a painting Old Obi-Wan. We're going to start now with the brush stage, and you're going to need some makeup wedges. These are little like foamy wedges. You're going to need some water. You're going to need a nice big brush. Rip the foam in half. We are after this jagged broken bit in the middle. That's the bit we're going to be using, and I'm going to start with this yellow ochre. It's going to be fairly the same technique throughout, so add some of the paint, use some water to dilute it down to a wash, so we want it to be nice and runny, and then use a nice big brush to get this all the way across him. Now, normally on a smaller piece I'd probably do this in one go, but because the head is so big, I don't want to risk the yellow drying before I get it off, so get it on with that big brush. I'm going to do it in sections, but it's going to be the same principle. Get your sponge and dab it off. Now you can see we're using that rough edge, and what that is doing is it's making the surface a little bit speckled, and it's changing the colour a little bit. It's not making it uniform, but the important thing is it's getting the paint off, but it's leaving on the yellow hue, and I'm going to do the whole of him with this. Now make sure when you're doing this that you get every little bit. You get in his ears, you get under his ears, around his ears, under his chin, under his nose. You do the whole thing. Take your time with it. There's no rush to be had, but just pop that wash on, get it off, and that's what he looks like with the first coat. Let it dry. That's really, really important. I'm going to do the same to his chest. Now this was in FDM, and what I've done with these, just so you're aware, I've primed them and I've given them a coat of a clear non-shiny varnish as well to protect them, and that is what it looks like on the body. I'm not going to show you the body each time because you get the gist. It's going to be the same principle. Next paint is fire red. Same thing again. We're going to water it down with a few squirts of water. I'm going to paint it on, and I'm going to get it off with the brush. It's going to be the same principle until I tell you it's different. So we're going to do a few colours in this way, and you can already see that the colour is starting to change in Obi. He looks quite red, but don't worry about that. The yellow is coming through, but he still looks very red, so I absolutely get that, don't worry. Next is brown sand, Any brown will do. Same thing again, water it down well. This one is watered down quite a lot. Paint it on, get your sponge and get it off, and you'll start to see as we go through the colours that the flesh colour will start to come through. You can see it there. Just at this stage we're starting to get a pinky sort of reddy flesh colour, and that is exactly what we're after. Next is this basic skin. Now this one is a little bit different. It's a little bit different, I say. It's saying water it down, paint it on. When it's on there, get your sponge and dab it off, and then get a clean sponge and dab it off again. You want to get as much of that off as you can while just leaving the hue in the background, and this is starting now to look a lot more skin coloured, so work that with the clean one. And there we go, we can see some highs, some lows, we can see some reds, some pinks. It's starting to look a little bit more like skin. Again, we've done the chest exactly the same. Next I'm going to move on to Pro Acryl. This is probably my favourite bit. I just love this paint. There was no need to water this down, but it's the same principle again. Paint it on nice and thick, get it into all his grooves and nooks and his crannies, etc., and then get your sponge and dab it off. And what I like with this one is it leaves like a I guess you could call it like a freckly kind of effect. You can see those little dots, those little marks, those little blemishes, and that is exactly what we are after, because that is the way flesh looks. It's not clean, it's not crisp, it's not clear, it's got little marks in it, it's got little changes of colour and little surface details, and that is what we're after. And this Pro Acryl paint is absolutely wonderful for doing that. So we're going to do over the whole of him, and you can see that's what he looks like. We're getting there, aren't we? You can see that? Yeah, wonderful, lovely, coming together nicely. Next, what we are going to do is we're going to do some dry brushing using Kislev Flesh. So no sponging and wet and no water needed. Just get a little bit on your brush, get the majority of it off, and then dry brush across. We're going across the marks, not through them. So we're hitting the surface of the marks that are on his face, like the folds around his eyes and his wrinkles. We don't want to go into them, we want to go over them. So where you see those marks, go over them in the opposite direction to them, so that the ridge inside stays that darker colour but the outside goes light, and get it right across his face, on the bridge of his nose. And now we've got another gradient in there. Don't forget his ears as well. We've got that other gradient of colour, and we're starting to get near to the end. It's starting to look lovely. We're getting that flesh colour. Red tone next. We need to put a little bit of life under the veins now, so paint this on nice and thick, then get a nice big dry clean brush and just meld it in. We don't want this to pool anywhere really. We want to get this to sort of mix into the face, to merge into the face. Look at those lines there. What I want to do is try to use that big brush to get the red to sit in the background and not go all across. And then that's all we need to do. So go around his nose, go around his ears, go around every little bit of where his beard ends as well. We just want to get that red in there and merge it in. Just use that big brush and flicker it and merge it and push it around. Just add colour to the skin. In the ears is going to be pinky reddy, so get that on there. Again, that's another hue we've added to the skin. We've added reds, we've added browns, we've added yellows and pinks, and now we've added a red wash. We've added some light skin colours as well with the dry brush. And this is how we build the skin tone. You can't make skin with just one colour. We're doing lots and lots of colours and adding them all together to make that look. The other thing I do with that red wash is just go over the lips, and I don't brush it off. I leave it on there, and that gives us a nice colour for the lips. Harvester Flesh. Now this is pretty much the last colour that's going on, and this is going to be dry brushed across now because we've got a bit of that red on there, so we just want to bring it back again. So we don't want to do everywhere with this, not every little bit, but we want to get the highlights for sure. So those parts on his cheeks, the bridge of his nose, the inside of his nose above his eyes, and the top of that ridge where he's looks like he's frowning. And you can see we're getting another skin colour in there now. Looks a bit pale in this light, but that's because I've got a really bright light, so it doesn't look that pale in natural light. And you can see there we've got the skin tones. That's pretty much what we were after. Now, you know, this is the way I do it, and I follow a guy called Steve Bird who does some awesome skin tones, and this is the techniques that he uses on smaller models, to be fair, but you can use them on the bigger models, as you can see there, and that's starting to look lovely. So the skin is on. I'm going to give it a light coat of lacquer before I go back to some flesh wash now, and I'm just going to pop that onto a hard brush, and I'm going to speckle on some freckles freckles and some blemishes and some marks onto the skin. Get the majority of it off on a little bit of kitchen roll, and then I'm just going to flick them in there so he looks like he's got little moles. You've got to remember, this guy's on a planet with 2 suns. He's going to look a little bit speckled and tanned and darker, and you get what I'm saying. His skin's going to have been absolutely ruined, isn't it, by those 2 suns. You know, Jedis don't wear sun protection, do they? And there we go. So there's the skin now. Now it looks light, but we're going to make it look better when we start to add in the eyes, the hair, the beard, and that will start to come to life. Now for the eyes are not white, as we often say, so I'm just going to use some of this ivory colour, and I'm going to paint the sclera of his eyes with that, being really careful not to get it on the skin. And it took 2 coats, so once it had dried I gave it another coat of white just in there, and you can see it looks okay. If you want to put a little bit of grey around the edges just to make it look oval, that's fine. Red toad next, the one we used before, and I'm just going to go back over his lips just to give those another layer over that dried red tone from before. And the lips are going to be pretty much done at this stage. I'm not going to do much more to them. I just want them to stick out a little bit from the rest of the colours of the face. Once that's done and that's on there, bring black, and I'm going to paint in his irises. Now luckily on this model, because Star Wars 3D are brilliant at this, you can see, especially this scale again, the eyes on there. You can follow the shape of the iris. So I'm just taking that black and I'm putting it on slowly. You can always add more, but you can't take it off, so take your time at this bit, because you really don't want to be ruining it. You don't want to be getting it on your skin. If you get it on the white and it knackers it, you just need to start again. But take your time, do it as carefully as you can. No rush with this bit until the eyes are on, and that's them in there now. I've just followed the actual natural parts of the eye, and I'm happy with that. That's looking good now. Obi-Wan's eyes are blue, so I'm going to start off with this dark blue, and I'm going to put that on. Now this was probably darker than I'd hoped it was going to be, so you're not going to see too much on the image, so I painted it on anyway because they are blue and I wanted a dark start. But then I moved to Void Shield blue, which is a lot lighter, and I started on the edge of the eye and I pulled it in so it looks like little gradients, little lines. I also took some of the darker blue, mixed it in, pulled it in little lines to try to make the eyes a little more interesting. The bottom of the eye will be lighter than the top of the eye, but I just wanted lots and lots of different colours of blue gradient in there, as you can see, to make them a little more interesting, with an outer darker blue around the outside of it. And that's pretty much it to a point. Next we're going to mix the pink. I don't have a pink, and that's what I'm after with the red and the white, and I'm going to use this in 2 ways. I'm going to go into each corner of the eye and just add a little bit of that pink into the corner, the inner corner and the outer edge. And once I've done that, I'm also going to take that pink and drag it across the bottom of both eyelids, the inner part of both eyelids, and that's that dragged across. Oh, I did enjoy doing that. And next thing I'm going to do is add the pupils in a brush with a big brush-ish. I'm just going to load it up and dollop it in, and there we go. You can see the pink, you can see the whites, you can see the blues, you can see the whole thing really. And the only thing I didn't catch is I'm going to cover them in a clear Vallejo, and once I've done that, a clear varnish, they're lovely and bright and shiny. Now I'm taking that wash and I'm just going over certain areas of the face just to add some darker areas above the eyes, under the eyes, in the grooves, in the folds in his eyes. I just want to add a bit more shape, a bit more colour, a bit more variation, and there we go. He's starting to look really, really like, I think he does look like Alec Guinness. It's a wonderful, wonderful script, print. I'm absolutely so chuffed with it. Wicked or SW3D do some wonderful things. I'm going to paint his eyebrows brown. Now don't panic, we're not going to make them look like they are caterpillars, but I'm going to paint them brown to start with. So solid, I know they are, but we will come back to them. Do not fret. Do not worry, we will come back to them and do a bit more work on them. Next, on a dry brush, I'm going to use some white paint, and I'm going to go over all his hair. Now where his hair is particularly yellow or particularly red, I'm going to go a little bit more to colour that in, because don't worry, we're going to come back with this with a dry brush of grey, but this is dry brushing the white across that hair. Now I want a little bit of the skin tones to come through in certain areas, especially where the hair joins the face, just to make it look like it's a little bit thinner there. So I'm okay with it just being a bit thinner there, so it looks like you can see a little bit of the flesh tones through the skin. As I say, where it's darker, paint it thicker. Now look how much difference that's made, just dry brushing that white across him. He really is starting to come together, isn't he? Next, of course, we've got to do the hair, and again this was fiddly because there's a few strands, so I'm going to dry brush some of it. I'm going to take a thin brush and do the other bits of it, and I'm going to get as much of that white on the hair as I can, and I'm just going to make sure I cover everything really. The eyebrows are going to have a dry brush of the white as well, so it's like a grey colour, and you can see the difference the eyebrows have made now with the, did I say eye brush? The eyebrows with white. I've dry brushed that across, done his hair. Look how wonderful he's looking. He's looking good, isn't he? Oh, I'm really chuffed with how Old Obi is coming along. Next, uniform grey. We're going to add that grey in, and we're just going to dry brush it across. We don't want to overdo it. We don't want to make it look completely grey. I've just a light touch of grey on there, just to take away from the starkness of the white. So give it a coating all the way across. Don't forget his hair. That's really important. And once you've done, and you've done the eyebrows again, just to give them a little bit of grey, I'm going to move on to the body, and I'm just going to mask off the centre, use some cypress brown on the outside of his Jedi jacket, and give that a blast all the way across. And just to give it a little bit of contrast, to make it a little bit darker, I'm just going to take afterwards a bit of Agrax Earthshade and spray that on, and that's the painting done. Let me know, do you like it? What do you think? Let me know in the comments when you get to see the final version. It's going to be coming along any minute now once we get rid of some of this Agrax Earthshade on there. And he's done. I didn't bother with the base. I did print the base, but I didn't bother doing anything with it because I don't think we need the base. It stands up wonderful on its own. Let's have a look at him finished.
Hello there.
Hello there. Well, there we go. There's Obi-Wan, or Old Obi Wan Kenobi, done. Alec Guinness, modelled by SW3D. They've done a fantastic job. The detail is amazing. If you've enjoyed the video today, please let me know in the comments. If you've got any suggestions to improve anything, let me know in the comments. Please click the like and subscribe buttons. They are really, really quick to do and cheap and simple, and it just makes the channel grow so much, and it helps the YouTube algorithm. Of course it does, so that more people can see the video. We do have a Patreon. If you want to think about subscribing, all the details will be down below, and I want to thank all my Patreons at this stage for your support. You guys are fantastic. Thank you so much for everything you do and all your support. It really is appreciated. Again, let me know in the comments what you think. I hope you've enjoyed that. I've really enjoyed the painting of it. Thanks Steve Bird for his techniques. See you soon on Greedy 3D.